Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Sheila, and I am the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Advantage Industries. We are a cybersecurity focused managed IT company located in the heart and soul of Maryland in Columbia. And today we are continuing a presentation that we started. This is part two of a three-part series where we're talking about the future of business in the Mid-Atlantic marketplace. And in our first session, you got to meet some fantastic people talking about the government contracting industry. And today, we have three gentlemen who have their finger on the pulse of business in this market. And if you don't believe me now, you will believe me at the end of this presentation. From the Howard County Chamber of Commerce, we have Leonardo McClarty. Leonardo, so good to have you here today, sir.
Hey, thank you, Mike, and glad to be here as well as to join, two industry colleagues, who I respect a great deal. And so looking forward to the conversation.
And along with that, we have Allie Williams from the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce. Allie, it is so good to see you today.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so excited to be here and joining this my colleagues from the great state of Maryland as well. So thanks for having us.
And batting in the three-hole today, the man who brings the power and the noise, my dear friend from the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce, Mike McMullen. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. From that intro, it sounds like I'm filled with a lot of hot air, and I'm sure by the end of the show, they're going to find I don't know anything, but I will talk a lot. It's nice to be on the show with you two guys too.
I use a lot of baseball analogies when I do these things, because the analogies of how sports parallels our business marketplace, I find fascinating. Perhaps that's another conversation for another day. And I've had the good fortune to work with each of you in varying capacities over the last 10 years. And I say that very sincerely, that I really feel like the three of you intimately understand what's going on in your markets with your membership. And I want to start with, if there's a trend, if there's one thing that's sticking out to you, because I know it's the end of the year, you're wrapping up a lot of conversations with your membership, thoughts for 2022. What did they like about your programs this year? What did they dislike? What are the things they want to see? What do they want to improve? So you're hearing a lot of that from your membership. So Leonardo, I'll start with you. What's that one thing, that trend, that vibe that you're getting from membership in the Howard County Chamber that's important to the business industry in 2022?
I think probably one of the biggest trends is I think dealing with workforce, and ultimately how are people able to staff open positions as well as keep people that are great team members. I mean, it's like, I guess to stick with the sports terms, how do I keep some of my best players from maybe not entering into free agency? And can I lock them in the long-term deals and keep them happy? And then at the same time, what's out there in the draft that can continue to help me perform better? And I think those are probably two of the big things that are keeping a lot of businesses up, small, medium, or large.
Yeah, the workforce topic came up in our last segment for the government contracting industry. So I'm not surprised that that's the first thing that came here. And I know you gentlemen all know this, but it's about striking a balance, because you need those people with the depth of knowledge and experience that have been there, that have done it. There is a tremendous number of young, eager professionals ready to enter the workforce. It's basically every 6 months. It's December when the fall semester of college is over, and it's May/June when the spring semester is over. That's when you get this influx of, maybe unproven's not the right word, but certainly not the extensively credentialed talent. And then, as all three of you know, there are a lot of organizations out there like mine. We specialize in something. Be good at what you are good at and outsource the rest. So, managing all of those strategies, all of those ideas, I'm sure is harrowing for business owners. Allie, workforce thing for you, something else coming up with your membership? What are your comments?
Definitely workforce development has been an issue for the past 20 plus years. And that's what's keeping, these CEOs awake at night. It's that talented, skilled, sustainable workforce that they are fearing will go away. It's retaining those workers. We're trying to, in the Greater Bethesda Chamber, trying to find ways to get our aging seniors and aging 50 plus people employed through a variety of job fairs, virtual and otherwise, working with those who do it well and introducing these concepts to our business owners who are looking to fill open positions. That is definitely a trend. I would say another trend related to HR and personnel issues is that crossroads between the mandates that are happening for, especially in Montgomery County, for government contract employees and the vaccinations. And the really, that's a big issue right now, is to make sure that employers are being compliant with those needs of the employees, but also to educate. And I think that's a key thing, to educate the workforce on what these mandates mean. And there is a crossroads between that mandate, the vaccine, and workplace. So we're working with attorneys up and down, our corridor to help our members understand what that entails. So again, that stays with the workforce, but it's just a different angle of looking at it.
Sure, trying to navigate between a rule and a best practice, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, Leonard, you were going to say something.
No, and I was going to say, I think the other part, just to chime in on what Allie was saying, that I think makes that the compliance piece tough, is that you had the ruling or the executive order, back, midsummer. Ultimately, as you go into kind of around that start of school time frame, and then you have the legal challenge, and it kind of puts the brakes on things. And so you've also had businesses kind of, on the one hand, thinking this is probably going to maybe pass legal muster, but yet if I don't have to move forward with this right now, I probably won't. And, and so kind of being stuck with still having questions, but yet right now I don't have to do it. And so I think that's also been another major challenge, whether you're a government contractor or if you're just a large firm of over 100 employees. And so, definitely some challenges.
So, Mike, I know that our home, Carroll County, is a little
God's
bit
country,
of a
Mike. It's called God. It's called God's country.
I affectionately refer to it as living in the corn. Yes, but we have this dynamic where the majority of our businesses here are either the true small business, 5, 10, 15 employees,
yep,
or the enterprise, those big box organizations, your nationwide conglomerates. We don't get a lot in the middle, and we're regarded as a commuter industry or a commuter community. People live here. They don't necessarily work here as compared to other counties in the area. So what is the pulse for yours? I mean, I'm sure you're hearing the workforce things too, but what else is sticking out for your members?
Mike, I would agree. I mean, aside from some large places like Penguin Random House, Flowserve, Kenora Break, places like that are huge, we're mostly smaller businesses, smaller members. And to put a slightly different spin on what I'm seeing out there, and it's all tied into a lot of the negatives that exist right now, right? Workforce, trying to find enough labor, supply shortages, rising prices, not sure what's going to happen, all these things that are handled so far out of our hands that we can't control any of it. We can write letters and we can complain, but at the end, someone up in Washington is going to decide some of this. What I've noticed in Carroll is an unbelievable perseverance and resiliency among the business owners. And it's not just, we've actually increased in membership, which I thought wasn't going to happen during this whole time frame. We've gone up to, we're like 690 members now. So we are growing, but it's smaller members. It's people that want to build relationships, that want to stay local. And I'll tell you one thing that was really cool to watch. For about 10 years now, we've been doing a little something called the Carroll Biz Challenge. It's like a local Shark Tank business show, basically.
Yep.
And we had more people apply this year during a COVID year than we've ever had before. We had 53 local entrepreneurs apply. And the guy who won first place, he walked away with a check for 10 grand plus a lot of other things. So it encourages me to see people, even at a time where if you want to turn on the news, which I'd highly recommend, don't watch the news, not too often. Don't get your news from Facebook, but try not to watch the news because everything's doom and gloom. Oh my God, COVID this, COVID that. But yet you got people who, instead of going and maybe getting a job, they're opening up their own business, and that's to be applauded. And that just shows the type of backbone and guts that a lot of people have in Carroll and throughout the state of Maryland. I'm sure you guys have seen the same thing.
Definitely, Mike. And with the entrepreneurial spirit that we're seeing from these, shops and stores that were, say a hairdresser, maybe 10 different chairs, or a nail salon that had 8 chairs. Those are being divided up. So now you might have a hair salon with 8 different little businesses inside that one store. That's kind of unique. So the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well. And I think a lot of people
thinking outside the box. I mean, these people are thinking outside the box to make it work because they got to compete with the Amazons of the world and all this, and they got to compete with people in Annapolis who've maybe never owned a business and yet pass all these regulations, rules, and taxes to cripple them, but they find a way around it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's an excellent point.
It's very exciting to see this, and as far as growth, it's exciting for all of our chambers because we can provide a benefit, a service, that education that they will need for permitting, for licensing, for getting their business up and started. It's not about a ribbon cutting and then all of a sudden, kaboom, their cash register is going to ring off the hook. Yeah. There are, as we all know, we have to have them engage with us, learn from us. We can help teach them and mentor them and provide those opportunities in order for those cash registers to ring. And those that take advantage of that are doing quite well. Those that need a little bit more shepherding, we're trying to do that for as well. I know that you guys and other chambers around our state are doing ferociously and doing well.
Well, and I think that's the thing that always comes out of any type of downturn or slowdown in the economy or even just hiccup, mishaps, well, however way you want to phrase it, is that you're going to ultimately always end up seeing opportunities to come out of these things. I mean, you think about it 2 years ago, in some respects, some of these, I won't name names, I'll say food transportation companies that you order from your maybe local eatery and they bring your food to you, it was a case where you thought, man, who's going to spend money to do that? Yeah. And all of a sudden, they've continued to grow.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, now you look at, what started out in some cases was just a vendor bringing grocery, and now they'll stop by Best Buy, they'll stop by, your office supply company, they'll stop by all of your different retailers. So I think, one of the things that we always see is the fact of that creative spirit that comes out of what might be a hardship or something to that effect. And so, we'll see that again. I think the challenge is, as Mike touched on it, is the fact of the regulatory environment constantly changing.
Did I talk about that, Leonardo? I didn't want to stay away from. I didn't want to go to the whole political thing. Did I go there?
No, but just the big thing is just important. The fact that
it is. No, I'm kidding. It's right.
And here's the thing: people go in business because, generally speaking, they do something well, and they don't necessarily go in it to follow all of these various, legal changes. And obviously, we could easily make the pitch of that's one of the reasons that we exist. But the fact is, it's like, hey, I cook well, so I become a caterer, or I do taxes well, or I'm a people person, and so I help you with your sales and business development, whatever it is, it's because I do something, that I feel is well. And then it's the other stuff that it's like, oh, you mean I have payroll taxes, or I've got, I've got to get permitted to open up this storefront, or I can't just go and get this food truck and set up at First and Main. You mean I got to talk to the health department? It's like all of this extra stuff that comes out after you decide to hang your shingle.
Right.
Excellent point.
Yeah, Leonardo, I love what you said there, because again, I've been involved with all of your organizations over the years on numerous occasions. I sat on Mike's board for a while. I collaborate with Ali on a monthly basis. Leonardo and I have done like 5 or 6 things together. I mean, there's a segment of the business world that doesn't necessarily understand, well, why do I join a chamber? And the short answer is there's a bunch of reasons why you might. I'm a salesperson. Why did I join? I wanted to network. I wanted to meet other people. And I'll hear this criticism, oh, well, I was in the chamber for 6 months and I didn't get any business out of it. Oh, well, that's your fault. That's not the chamber's fault. Now, on the other side of that, many of your members join for visibility because they want their name on your website. They want their name on your next conference. They want their name on your golf tournament because they want that visibility. And as you said, Leonardo, you're a resource. Now, each one of you has a bit of an expertise in resources for your chamber. And I know Leonardo, the Howard County Chamber, gets into the legislative piece very heavily. Mike, I know that is, while you are aware and intelligent on those matters, that's not Carroll County Chamber's resource that they bring to the table. And
Well,
Ali,
Mike,
I know that you bring another one altogether. So yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I mean, I would say we bring it because we've got an actual legislative committee who loves that stuff. I'm unashamedly, I confess, and I tell everybody, the part of the job I hate the most, legislative stuff. Because I just don't, I hope anybody watching this, don't tell people I said this. I don't necessarily trust when politicians tell us things. I know that's horrible to say. Now, our delegation in Carroll, these guys are really good. And I honestly mean that. They are out for the business community and for the worker. But we do have an actual committee that does that. And I'd say the one thing that I think we do really well is we don't have all the answers to what everybody needs. Every business that starts up, I don't have employees. We've got, I mean, currently right now, we've got 2 full-time staffers, and I am actually one of them. So we don't have all the answers on everything that you need to start your business or whatever, but we've got amazing partners throughout all of Carroll. And these people, we're like brothers and we're like sisters. It's like I can point somebody in this area and boom, it all happens. And those partnerships, that's what a lot of folks get out of joining. I've seen people, when we lose a member, normally it's somebody who has joined and it's been a couple of years or it's been a year and it's I didn't have a chance to go to as many events. I'm sure you guys are great. I'm just not going to renew. And they don't understand just by being on the website that they get business, and also what they do to help us to do all the different events that all of us do in every community in which we're in. And if they're smart, they take advantage of all the connections they can meet and in like after hour events and luncheons and breakfast meetings. And I guarantee there's somebody there that can help them solve whatever huge problems that they've got. We kind of are like matchmakers. We bring folks together.
Mike, you just said something that for our viewing audience is an absolute bingo moment. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm in charge of marketing for my company. Now, being in charge, it's a loose statement. We have an outsourced marketing company. I'm the primary point of contact for when they do stuff. So, for example, they produce this webinar that you're watching today. Now, part of our business world today is digital, yes?
Oh, yeah.
And it's becoming more and more important. So everybody has heard the term SEO. Maybe you don't know what it means, and that's okay. Search engine optimization. So what does that mean? When people look you up, how quickly do they find you? Or if they look up something relevant to what you do, how high do you show in that list. Well, guess what? Being a registered member of a chamber puts your website and phone number and email on another link in the World Wide Web. And because of that, that's called a backlink, and that's good for your SEO. So that's my marketing lesson for our presentation today. But that's just one of many things that your organizations bring to light. Leonardo, you got something. Looks like it.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you're correct. And I think the other thing is the fact that oftentimes it's easy for some businesses to get caught up also in just the events or the social aspects of the chamber. You know, I remember reading something a while back, and I think it was someone that said that the business after business, business after hours, depending on what you call it, you know, probably came about and got really popular maybe in the 80s or 70s or something to that effect. But it was one of those things that, because it took off so fast and performed so well, that now that's when people a lot of times associate chambers with or for, when if you really look at just our historical makeup, we were traditionally set up to be business advocates, folks that were about ultimately growing your local economies and the economic development stuff. And the social elements came about. And then it was because it performed well. And actually, we realized, hey, we can actually make some money off of this if we do sponsors. This shift kind of focused. But I say all of that in the sense that at the end of the day, we are just so much more than just a mixer, a breakfast, or what have you. And it's truly, I think, for those businesses that have been longtime members that have drank the proverbial Kool-Aid, is because they really see the chamber as a resource and ally. And it's one of those things, it's kind of like insurance. You know, you pay for it each month, each year. You hope you don't need it. You hope no one hits your car. You hope all of these different things. But you definitely are glad you have it when something comes up. And I like to think that's where we are.
Yeah, I think what your organizations bring to the business world, and again, I don't want our audience to think, oh, they're just hawking chambers. I kind of am, but understand that there are strategic reasons to do this, and there are tactical reasons to do this. Absolutely. And you can get both. You absolutely can get both from being involved. But if you only want to get one, you can be very tactical in how you go about participating in a chamber. And with that, business grows from familiarity. I think we can all agree to that. Yes?
Yeah.
And a chamber is one of the many ways in your community that you can build familiarity. And each one of you knows associations are critical as well. You know, whether that's Lions, whether that's Rotary, the list is practically endless. And there are pure networking organizations. BNI comes to mind. Team Network comes to mind. NRG comes to mind. And the idea is, well, there isn't enough time in the day for me to do all of these things. Agreed. So strategically, what do you want to do? Because then you get into the tacticals of, I'm going to attend Allie's after hour event, but I'm going to be at Mike's breakfast for next month. And then I'm going to be at Leonardo's.
Who's got better alcohol for the after hours. That's where I'm like, if Allie's got better alcohol, I'm coming.
So again, are we being strategic or tactical?
I think so.
That
Leonardo, like I also think that the after-hour socializing, networking, have a beer, have a wine, started with Woodstock. I think Woodstock was the first one. I'm only kidding. But, you know, I try to tell every member that I get a chance to talk to that long-term business relationships is really not about networking. I mean, I'm big on words. I don't like the word networking that much, because to me, it's kind of like, hey, if I can sell you my business in 30 seconds and I got a good elevator pitch, I'm locking you up. And I have found that, at least in Carroll, I think, and I think this has got to be it everywhere, that most business comes from when you trust somebody. You know,
Yeah.
you sit down, the
Yes.
four of us could sit down, and if I didn't know what
But
any
it's
of you
no
guys
like
did,
and trust.
yeah,
No
all of
like
a
and
sudden,
trust,
I'm
right.
talking to you guys and I'm liking you and you're asking me questions about me and you're not just like, hey, let me tell you what I do. I'll sell you your funeral today and you'll save money. You know, you're just trying to get to know me and I'm trying to get to know you. And all of a sudden, I like you, I trust you, business comes. And that's the type of long-term relationship building that I think Chambers should be about. I mean, that's what we push a lot on, is building relationships. Because at the end of the day, you can look at all the problems going on a statewide level, a countywide level, a national level, a global level. I mean, which one of us can stop COVID, right? Or can change a COVID policy? If they decide they want to say in the state, masks again, shut everything down, we can't change that, but we can try to get our members to do business with our members and all local businesses and people to not go to Amazon as much, but to try to spend money locally, because these are things we can control. And that's where it's important for Chambers to focus on relationships. And you can get that anywhere, not just the after hour mixers. So,
Right.
Mike, I think you just identified something that's at the core of all four of us, which is a successful business will make more money this year than they did the year before. And they will make more money next year than they did this year. And there are a number of ways to do this. And Leonardo, you used one of my quotes earlier. I love it. You get into business because you're exceptionally good at a thing. I am a baker. I am an architect. I am an accountant. I am a doctor. Now, to run a medical office, to run an accounting firm, to run an architecture firm, to run a bakery, there are 100 other things, and 100 is probably too short a number to make that business work. Yeah, I will. Our company, the president, Keith, he is a brilliant mind, and particularly from finance. So he's an accountant by trade that just happens to love to do nerd stuff. Like that's how Advantage was founded. We're a technology company founded by an accountant. So I tell people all the time, we grow like a savings bond. We've had slow, predictable growth year after year. But Keith hired me, this wild gun salesperson, because he said, I seem to be at this number. And it's not growing the way I know that it can. And so growth and pulling in those resources, Leonardo, and getting workforce development and all the things that you said, Mike, I think that's the key here. I think that's the thing that if you're going to shake hands with somebody and form a contract, it comes from a place of trust. So, put your business development hats on for me for a few minutes, gentlemen. Give me your thoughts there. Where are you with? Because I know you all do that for your respective organizations as well, right?
Well, I mean, we do. And I think one of the things that I think on that trust component that's big is, sometimes I look at it from the perspective of, it doesn't always have to be 50-50 if we both get what we're desiring and what we're looking for. And so that means maybe sometimes I get 45, you get 55. Sometimes it's but I think that gets back to that trust factor in the sense of if the
45 is what you wanted, then you take it.
Right. And the other part of it is, I think also the fact of being true again to what, are you delivering on what you said you were? I mean, one of the big things in our world, and frankly, for whether not for profit, or what have you, is ultimately going to be, in our case, we might call it member. Some cases they might call it client. Some may call it customer. But are you fulfilling the, whether that's the order or whatever it was that you said, are you doing what you said you were going to do? And that's the big thing. When we sell a sponsorship, as an example, it's all about, are we actually maybe over delivering what we promised? Can we check if we said we were going to give you these 10 things? Did we give you 10 and maybe in some cases even give you 12? ultimately so that then you can get repeat business and so forth. But it's ultimately, I think part of that trust is, are you doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it?
That's a really good point that you make. I mean, in my prior life before, I've been in this role now for about 11 years, actually more. I was vice president of customer service for Pulte Homes. We built a lot of homes, and people come in to any relationship, any business transaction with a set of expectations.
Yeah.
And a lot of times their expectations are pretty low. We found out that people buying new homes, that people buying used cars had higher expectations. So it's not like you can shape somebody's expectations when they're coming in to the deal with you or whatever. But you can certainly try to manage them, just like what you said. If you tell them you're going to give them 10 things, no, you're going to give them 12. If you tell them that when they sponsor something, you're going to get their name out there in a week, get it up there the next day. You know, whatever you can do to set expectations in any business. If you've got something where you say, well,
Bingo
we'll call
moment,
you back, customer, in like 24 hours, call them back in 5. Whenever you can exceed expectations, you're doing well. And if you have a chance to set the expectations, then you should do it with enough actual foresight to be able to exceed them.
And you know, Mike, I think the other thing too, on that same note, and when you can't meet those expectations, or if something goes awry, being quick to pick the phone up, or just to say, hey, you know what, I was wrong, or we couldn't deliver, and this is what I'm planning to do to make it right, or whatever. I mean, I think about last year for all of us in some form or fashion. You know, in our case, we sell sponsorships. You know, oftentimes we have what we call our annual partners. And these are people that, you know, in essence, we like to ask them one time for a check. And because they commit, I jokingly say, because they buy the value meal, they get 12 months of exposure, as opposed to if they were just buying it off the 99-cent, you know, here or there.
And they get the little toy inside, right?
Yes. But the thing is, you think about it, we sold some of our sponsors, we sold them sponsorships in December of 19, not knowing that in, say, you know, June of 20, we'd be in our basements, in the guest room, at the dining room table, trying to put on an annual meeting that's not meeting in person. And so then it was a case of trying to reach out to those sponsors that have given good money to say, okay, well, these are the things we're going to do in the virtual realm that, you know, so that you still get your exposure, and so we can still honor the obligation, you know, that we have with the, you know, you wrote us a check, we owe you certain things on the fulfillment side. And I think that's the other piece that's so critical as well, you know, to what, you know, Mike was commenting on also, is the fact of, hey, if something changes, you've got to be quick to respond. The fact to say, hey, look, either I messed up or it's changed. Here's why. This is what I'm going to do to correct it, to fix it, or what have you, because we're in unfortunately, such a cynical world. And gosh, Mike, if I had a hat on, I'd tip it to you, because working in customer service in a home building industry, you know,
when I have no hair. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because people have these expectations sometimes, whether they're realistic or not, it's their expectations.
That's right.
And so you're constantly trying to make sure that at least know you've got their best interest in heart. You're really not trying to take them. But we're just in such a cynical world right now.
It's the truth. You know what? And I'll tell you, you said something that was like the mantra that we had when I worked there. Tell them what you're going to do and then do it. And if you can't do it, call and tell them you can't do it, and then tell them what you're going to do and then do it. It's proactive communication. And I can't tell you how many people I've had work for me, because it's human nature, who don't want to say, who don't want to confront you and say, hey, Leonardo, I know you sponsored 2,000 for this event, but it's really not going to happen. Maybe if I just don't mention it, you won't really realize you gave me the money. And because they don't want to confront. They don't want that kind of like an actual conflict. But unfortunately, I think people you just got to do it, and folks appreciate it. I mean, I think that's an excellent point that you make. They appreciate your honesty, because we're all in the same boat right now. It's good.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, you tied in arguably my favorite book. And if you could see, these are real books. This is not a
The Seven
stream.
Habits of Highly Effective People. Is that one up there? Is that what you're?
The
No.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yes.
I love that book.
Because Leonardo, what you were describing earlier is what he calls third alternative. You know, that he coined the phrase win-win, and then unfortunately the sales world bastardized that into beating my competition into submission. So people don't truly get what win-win is supposed to mean. And in the book, Dr. Stephen Covey talks about third alternative. So I want something, Leonardo wants something, and those things are not perfectly aligned. First, that's okay.
Yeah.
Second, how do Leonardo and I come together to create a new solution that gives us both what we want? And that's the core of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Mike, you touched on another one of his favorite words, which is being proactive. He uses the word intentional, being intentional with your actions. And for a business in an environment where things are so uncertain, because, so full disclosure, the recording date of this is a few days before Christmas in 2021. We're going to have it published in 2022.
Ho, ho, ho.
And COVID's on the rise again. And I know each one of you is hearing that. It's being squawked at you by the local legislators, and it's being squawked by the local business owners. My wife's company just went back to full lockdown again. They've 100% virtualized. The National Hockey League, they're not having any games for a week. They canceled all games through the 27th because they want to try and flatten it out. Now, you can argue all day long. Is that the right thing to do? Is it not the right thing to do? That's not the point. Yeah. The point is, you as a business owner are now in an unstable environment. How do you walk through those fires and flame and still deliver a fantastic experience to your customers, to your members? And Mike, you hit on it, is you say you're going to do something and then you do it. And if for any reason you can't, you go back and say, I couldn't do it, but here's what I'm going to do instead. And here's when I'm going to do it. Because when people are uncertain, that's when conflict arises. So the more that you can help people feel certain in their decisions and their processes, the better.
We developed, the better off we all are. We developed an action cycle for our team. So it is a circle, and it is expectations and deliverables. And if you're not able to meet those deliverables, you throw a flag. You say, I'm not going to be able to make those calls. I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. May I have extra time? Or it goes back into the pot and it gets reassigned. So it's accountability for sure. It's not Big Brother watching. It's because we have expectations to deliver. And when those aren't met, it's going to be worse. So, we're in the throes of developing a new strategic plan. So we surveyed our members over the summer and got some really great feedback about what their expectations are for us and what we can develop and implement for them. And just to give you a couple of buzzwords, obviously in Chambers, we all talk about visibility. We talk about networking. We talk about advocacy. The one that kept coming up over and over, and this isn't a surprise, is community. That word, whether it's being a sense, being part of a community, being, their civic duty to be a member of the chamber, which is great, but those are the ones that aren't necessarily as actively involved. They're a paycheck member, a checkbook member, but we want them to engage. We want them to be involved. We have the Marriott World headquarters right behind me in our, right in my shadow of our building here in Bethesda. And we want them, and they do engage, but it's providing resources and benefits to big major companies like that and Choice Hotels and others who are part of the Bethesda makeup, as you know, Mike mentioned earlier, with some of the larger Carroll County employers, you have to find that benefit in what makes them tick and engage with them. So it's the benefit of that action cycle I spoke about, and that accountability. And we all have small teams that work with us, but we provide an enormous value for those members, and we're always looking to grow the members, but take care of the ones that are with us and have been with us for years and years. Maybe their expectations aren't as much, but we still have to provide that for them. It's easy to go and promise somebody so they join the world, and we can't often deliver 100% on those because we don't know who sold them, if it's a membership director or whatever. As the leaders of the organization, we have to work with our boards to make sure that what we do promise, we will deliver. We will deliver fashionably and on time and with a smile. So I would imagine you agree, because oftentimes we want to give everybody the world, but we need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit to make sure that what we are offering and what we can offer is doable and doesn't take too much away from our bandwidth that's so precious. And, you know, time is the new currency. It has been for years.
Alan, you know, that's a really good point that you make. And one thing that I'm able to tell the members, because we do these little new actual member orientations, and we do it on Zoom and live. And I always tell them, hey, look, if you're thinking you're going to join and you're going to double your actual business in the next 2 weeks, I'll give you your check back right now, because that's not going to happen. It's all about long term. And I tell them, hey, it's a little bit like a health club, right? I mean, I can join a health club, and I'm going to be as fat in a year as I am now, because I probably won't go to it. Somebody else could join, and at the end of the year could look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because they take advantage of it. They get involved in it, and a lot of it's on them. And that's why I think if I can sell them, or if any of us can, on just being on the website and what you can get out of that, and then supporting us with all these events we do in the community. And I think that's one of the coolest things, is the type of community events, because you're right. There are a lot of them that if we didn't do, they wouldn't happen. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys. And whenever you can do events like that, a lot of the people that maybe don't need extra networking, but they want to be involved in the community, they're going to want to come to the chamber, because we're like at the center of the wheel. So that's a great point that you had made.
Yeah, and Mike, another thing with collaborating with the community partners on different things. Everybody's, you know, we all compete with not-for-profits in our communities, in our counties, in our et cetera. There are 23 counties in Maryland, and everybody wants a little piece of every county and every little group that's in them. We collaborate very well with the local chambers that are in Montgomery County on efforts with advocacy. We do joint networking. I'm sure you guys do the same. And as far as our state, the Maryland Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, I can call Leonardo and ask him something, and I can call Mike and others from within that our own association for help. I've been here a year, but I've been in the chamber world for 25. So there are efforts that are very special and unique to chamber execs, and you know, and I'm not, you know, your intellectual property that you're sharing with me, it doesn't necessarily hinder your budget and your bottom line. It's going to help me grow. It's going to help me be a better leader. It's going to mentor me to do bigger and better things for our community, and in hope that we can return that favor, and that, you know, we try to share that with our members too in our Chamber 101, which is our orientation. Okay. And we do tell them, here's a great way to network. You know, if you're running up to the richest people in the room, the men and women who are showing up to these events, and you're trying to sell them something that they did not show up with a shopping list, and there's a pretty good chance that they're not even interested in the product that you have, build rapport, build a relationship. That'll all happen in time. But sometimes when it's the messenger going
strategic
up
versus tactical.
Exactly. Mike Shilley, you and I have talked about that a lot. And it's so important to make sure that we're training our members how to network, since that's a big benefit for them. And so that is something that will, whoops, we just lose power.
I need to move. and so the light will come back on.
Oh, gotcha. Was it something I said? So, but to build that within our own, our own members and make sure that they're aware of the best strategic ways to network with those that they're wanting to do business with is so vitally important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good
Allie,
point.
I think that's a wonderful parting thought for us today to wrap up the conversation. Gentlemen, this has been exceptional. I've learned so much. I just want to go around the horn and give each one of you 60 seconds. If there's a final thought you want to summarize on the conversation today about your organization or your membership or about business in general, I'd like each of you to just have that opportunity to do that. Mike, I'm going to start with you and then we'll go back around.
All right, thanks a lot. I'm looking at the clock here, so I'm going to take 60 seconds. First off, I want to say anyone who's listening who lives in the state of Maryland, shop from businesses, get service from businesses, do business as much as possible with businesses in the state of Maryland. We all are in this together. We all need each other's help. Every dollar that's spent on the internet or that's spent on Amazon or on Etsy or whatever is less money that goes into the business community that then pays for the taxes, for the roads, for the infrastructure, for things like that in Maryland. And then I want to give a shout out to the people who own businesses, specifically smaller ones. Have perseverance. Don't be afraid. Get involved with a group like one of the actual chambers here or another chamber in Maryland. Seek out professionals who know stuff that you don't know. They can help to guide you through, but do not give up. Never give up. That was 1 minute, Mr. Mike.
Well said, Mike McMullen. Thank you for joining us today. Leonardo, your parting thoughts. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you. I'll just say, I think one is get involved as you can. We recognize that all of our members are busy, and Allie touched on it earlier in the sense that time is a precious commodity. And so when you think about any professional organization, chamber, association, business group, think about how you want to get involved. I think when you can be honest with yourself as well as honest with the representative that you're talking to, I think you'll have a more rewarding experience. And the second thing is recognize that each chamber is different because each community is different. And
Unique,
so,
absolutely.
So you may have had an experience with one chamber that you might not have at another or vice versa, but recognize that, yes, there may be similarities between Carroll County and Howard, but at the same time, we're still different. The same thing with Montgomery. And so I think you've got to just evaluate each organization that you consider on its own merits, because again, each community is different.
Very good. Thank you, Leonardo. Allie, wrap us up today.
Mike, I want to thank you for bringing us together. I think this is the first and most important thing, is to collaborate with each other, share best practices, trends, and benchmarks that can help us be better leaders. For our communities, we encourage all of our members and businesses to engage with us as much as possible. As was mentioned, when you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. We all have different and completely separate missions, but together we are promoting economic growth and development and enhancing the quality of life in our communities. I think the chamber is a great opportunity for businesses to join, get engaged, and mostly to take advantage of the resources that we can offer as a collaborative effort within our own communities and working with each other.
So thank you all, gentlemen. I would strongly encourage our viewing audience to pick up the phone and call Mike or Allie or Leonardo. I can tell you from firsthand experience, they are more than happy to answer any call, from the benign to the ridiculous. And I know that because they've each done it for me. They will talk business with you. They will talk chamber with you. They will talk community with you. They will talk legislation with you. They'll tell you when they don't like a topic and they're not the best ones to talk to about it, but they will engage. And that is, if there's a mandate for 2022, it's engagement. It's engaging with the right people to be successful. So for Leonardo McClarty and Allie Williams and Mike McMullen, I am Mike Sheila, again, the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Advantage Industries. We thank you so much for participating in this presentation today. And be sure to check out part 3, where we will have business owners from the banking industry, the medical industry, and the technology industry as our 3 guests for the 3rd part of this series. Thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.